I'm really interested to see what happens with the second-year quarterbacks in general. All right, welcome in. It's the Breer Report for Tuesday, August the 19th. My camp trip isn't quite over yet. My travel is winding down, so we are here from the home office. And there was a bunch of news to get to over the course of the last few days, so we want to do that right here, right now. We got three topics for you on this Tuesday edition of the Breer Report. Our first topic, Joe Flacco named the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. This shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody who's been paying attention. And really, if you look at the structure of the competition over the last 3 or 4 months, you get a clear picture now of how Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees have run this whole thing. And going back to the spring, they tried to maximize the amount of reps and amount of information that they get from their quarterbacks. So they went to what's called a two-spot, basically running 2 practices at once. And again, they were trying to gather information on Kenny Pickett, on Dillon Gabriel, and on Shedeur Sanders. And Joe Flacco got a lot less work in the spring, which essentially was the coaches saying, you've got a first-round bye into the quarterback competition in the summer. That put Joe Flacco in the catbird seat to win the quarterback competition in the summer. And when we got to the summer, the way things were structured in the summer told you a lot about where they were at. They left the door open for the rookies to compete, but Kenny Pickett was the only one who really had the amount of work that he would have needed, was getting the amount of work that he would have needed to win the starting job. Now, again, that door was left open. Like if Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel came back and wowed everybody, then they would have increased the amount of work that those guys got in practice. But as it stood, they wanted to get a look at Kenny Pickett versus Joe Flacco. Then Kenny Pickett gets hurt. So Dillon Gabriel gets a few more first-team reps. Shedeur Sanders still the developmental guy. The Browns told you where they were at in this the whole time through their actions, which was Kenny Pickett was the guy who had a legitimate shot to beat out Joe Flacco for the job. Dillon Gabriel had shown enough as far as his aptitude for the offense to go into a game if they need him to go into a game. And so they wanted to open the door for him to get some first-team reps to work with the starters in case they ever have to put him into a game. And if he had shown more, then maybe he would have earned more reps. And then Shedeur Sanders was seen as the developmental prospect. That's what the Browns were telling you with their actions. They were always trending this way, and now Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback. Now, I understand that this is a team in a transitional phase. Myles Garrett's getting older. Denzel Ward's getting older. Joe Bitonio's getting older. They've got guys across their roster that are getting into the back nine of their careers, which is part of the reason why you trade the second overall pick in an effort to get younger across the board. So the question, and I think this is a fair one for Browns fans to ask, is why would you waste your time with a 40-year-old quarterback when you are trying to get younger across the board, and this isn't a team that's competing for a championship right now? And my answer would be because you still have to field a team in 2025. You still have to give the guys in the locker room, the Wards, the Garretts, the Bitonios, the best chance you possibly can at winning in the here and the now. And if you look at the start of their schedule, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, Pittsburgh in the first 6 weeks, that's a really tough go for any quarterback. And putting a rookie quarterback into that situation would be a really, really, really big ask. And so you have to give the guys in the roster the best chance to win if you want to hold on to the locker room, if you want your guys to be able to look at you with a straight face, because those guys don't care about your 3 or your 4-year plan at quarterback. They don't care what your quarterback room looks like in 2027. They want to be given the best chance to succeed both as a team and individually right now. You owe it to them. And as of right now, Joe Flacco gives them the best chance to do that. Now, if you get later in the season and you're at 2-8 or you're at 4-9, and now you're talking about being in a place where you have to evaluate your roster. Of course, veterans will understand that. But, you know, when you're talking about starting a season and getting a team ready to go play 17 games, I think it's almost impossible to say, no, we're going to throw our quarterback room into, you know, a developmental phase, and we're going to throw our season overboard in the name of trying to identify what we have in that quarterback room when we're not even sure that there's anybody that's going to be there and even next year. So this is a sensible decision for Kevin Stefanski. I understand why he did it. Joe Flacco's the Browns starting quarterback. It's the right decision for the Browns right now. Second topic for today, Matthew Stafford returned to practice on Monday. That's big news for Rams fans, for Sean McVay, for the players there, they believe wholeheartedly they have a Super Bowl team. I think they have every right to think that way. I may pick them to come out of the NFC. A very solid offensive line, provided that Alaric Jackson is healthy with the blood clots and ready to go at left tackle. Devontae Adams, they're expecting a huge year out of him. It should be a good skill group with him and Kyron Williams, and some depth behind Kyron Williams in the backfield now. You're adding Terrence Ferguson to a tight end room that's got Tyler Higbee. You're bringing back Puka Nacua. The defensive line might be the best in all of football with so many young guys. A remarkable rebuild by Les Snead and Sean McVay, getting that room where it is in the post-Aaron Donald era. And so a lot's going to ride on Matthew Stafford's ability to make it through a 17-game season, and that right there is the key. That's the way that's why they've handled this the way that they've handled it. And talking to people there over the course of the last month, what you keep hearing is, we don't want to put him out there when he's 85%. We don't want to put him out there when he's 90%. We want to get him as close to 100% as we possibly can. We know the wear and tear in his body is cumulative, and we know that any sort of damage that he takes on now could affect us in December and January and February. And so if you feel like you've only got so many bullets in the gun with Matthew Stafford, it makes sense to wait and not fire them now, and try to make sure that those bullets are there for you when you really need them, when you're coming down the stretch of the regular season, when you're going into the playoffs. And so that's the logic behind the decision. Now, the fact that the timeline got knocked off kilter a little, that makes this one worth monitoring. The fact that it's a back injury for an older player, that makes this one worth monitoring, right? So I'm in no way saying this is nothing. It's been a frustrating thing for Stafford. It's been a frustrating thing for the coaches. All of that exists. And they feel very confident that Matthew Stafford can still play at a very, very high level. But yes, there is reason to be concerned that this could become an issue on down the line. Because again, with older players, these sorts of injuries don't just go away. So, the pain management end of it, that's going to be a big piece of getting yourself through this if you're the Rams, getting Stafford through this if you're the Rams. And it is, again, like you look at the kind of accumulation of injuries with Stafford, the elbow, the wrist, and now the back. These are a product of all the damage he's taken over the course of his career, some of those tough years in Detroit. And so for now, it's about the Rams managing it, but it's not something that can't recur. So they're going to have to stay on top of it over the course of the year. No question about it. All right. Our third topic. This is something that I just wanted to hit on really quick because I think that it's worth mentioning, and I don't think enough people are talking about him. But the level of confidence that I saw in Michael Penix in Atlanta when I was at their camp last week is worth noting. There are a lot of Rams people on that staff. That's obviously where Raheem Morris came from. You hear the Matthew Stafford comparisons and the way that he spins the ball and the way that he sees the field. And it's just everyone there, the way they talk about the kid, the way they talk about his ability, again, to see it and how fast he sees it. And, in this week's Monday column, we went through a couple of situations where he got to his fifth progression, which is rare for a quarterback that young, and how quickly he's diagnosing what he's seeing in front of him. And they saw these things in a 3-game sample size last year. And so I'm really interested to see what happens with the second-year quarterbacks in general. I think we have an idea of what Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix are now. Drake May and Michael Penix to me are kind of in the same category where you look at the two of them and you really like there's something there last year for you to look at and say, yeah, there really might be something here. Caleb Williams is a wild card, but he looked great the other night. Like it really looks like that whole thing we talked about Ben Johnson taking the offense, throwing it all at Caleb Williams early and then narrowing it down as he goes on. It looks like that's working. And obviously, J.J. McCarthy, we haven't seen enough yet, but he's got a great team around him. Penix, it was just interesting talking to people there about where he's at developmentally going into his second year as a pro. What he's got around him, a veteran offensive line, a lot of guys in that line, Chris Lindstrom, Caleb McGarry, Jake Matthews that have played a lot of football together, right? Like, so you've got a veteran group in front of them. You've got Drake London, Bijan Robinson. We'll see what they get out of Kyle Pitts. Darnell Mooney, really good player. There's a lot to like around Michael Penix. and then just the level of confidence in him. I just say this. Generally with younger players, what you'll hear when a coach is really excited about him is A, B, C, I really like, and then D, there will be the break tapping. And there wasn't a lot of break tapping with Michael Penix. So Falcons are really excited about where he's at. I don't think enough people are talking about him. I'm excited now after having been there to see where he's going. Really, I think got a chance to have a really strong second year and open some eyes and maybe challenge the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC South, which of course the Bucs have won that division 4 years in a row. Appreciate you guys coming out. We'll have a mailbag edition for you a little later in the week, maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday. We'll see. And then hopefully another Breer report to cap the week. Thanks for checking out all of our content. We'll have more camp takeaways coming on the YouTube channel as well. Be sure to check those out, and we will see you guys soon.